I see the energy of being around people that are just so negative, and everything is a problem. It just doesn't feel good. Again, somatic, like if it does not feel good in my body. And silver linings and positivity feel good in my body.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course they do.
And they don't see it, but I'm holding my hand to my chest and breathing.
Yeah. My friend Andy, always on the lookout for people who might be willing to share their story, gave me Sandra's name a few months ago. We talked, and it was obvious that this would be a good fit. When I first talked with Sandra, one of the first things she said to me was that she had listened to my interview with Nancy B. from season 1 and saw a lot of similarity in her story. I made an introduction, and Sandra connected with Nancy. Both have independently told me that they really appreciated talking to each other. You'll see that there are similarities in their stories. So we set a time and a date, and we went to Sandra's home in Boulder, Colorado, for an in-person interview. I always look forward to the in-person interviews. Being in the same room with a person, sharing the space, is a gift. This day was especially lovely. I felt so welcomed and peaceful as we sat in what Sandra calls her sanctuary. It was an incredibly pleasant day and conversation. Sandra brings her entire self to this interview, much like she does with everything in her life. She was prepared, and she's thoughtful about living with an illness that will likely take her life in time. Her emphasis in looking for the good, what she calls silver linings, is a masterclass in having a positive mindset without a need to always pretend that everything is positive. As a disclaimer, we do talk about advanced directives, goals of care, and treatment preferences in today's episode. The intent is to encourage people to engage in conversations with their medical providers and loved ones about these things. We are not doctors, and in no way should this conversation be considered medical advice. This is Dying to Tell You. Just introduce yourself, and then, I'll take it from there.
Okay. Okay. My name is Sandra.
Yep. And you're here in Boulder, Colorado.
Lovely.
And it is lovely. And your home is lovely. And your little sanctuary out here is very lovely. So tell us your diagnosis, which I think is very interesting. And but it's not going to be the most interesting thing we talk about today based on what you've written. So so tell us your diagnosis, and we'll kind of get through the diagnosis so we can get to the good stuff.
Okay. So in 2007, I had a grand mal seizure at PS1 in New York City.
Just out of the blue.
Out of the blue. And I was at a museum in Long Island City, and I just didn't know what was happening to me. I was eating an amazing avocado sandwich. I got up and said, I don't know what was happening to me. And I woke up in an ambulance and taken to Mount Sinai, Queens, and then transferred to Mount Sinai. And I have a brain tumor. They actually misdiagnosed my first brain tumor as a oligodendra. I hope I pronounced that right. That's right. And then, so from what I understand, it has clean margins. So after the surgery, they said they got it. So I decided not to do any kind of treatment like chemotherapy or radiation because I understood that radiation could only be done once. And I went on my merry way. And then a year later, it came back and it was diagnosed as a grade 2 astrocytoma, which is has tentacles. And so from my understanding, you never can get it all because they don't want to go into the brain matter too much. Yeah. And so I decided to do chemotherapy at that point in time and just get MRIs annually. And all the MRIs were clean for 15 years. And so I really thought I was in the clear.
Yeah.
And I was scheduled to get another MRI in 2022. It was 4 months away. And I decided, I had a seizure hiking in the Brainerd Lake recreation area.
Yeah. And you were, I love the kind of the silver linings thing that you wrote about. Well, I was hiking, but I was hiking with somebody and we had made it back to the car, right? Or close.
No. So I was, I tried to see silver linings in everything. Yeah. And so when I did get radiation and I lost a good part of my hair. And so I bought a silver linings wig. And so I try to see silver linings in everything. So I was hiking with my brother and we actually hiked from, if people know Colorado and the Brainerd Lake area, Blue Lake, which is so beautiful. But there's Little Blue Lake, which is about a mile straight up to Scree. Or you climb Scree to get there. And we did it. And I just remember seeing it was windy and Little Blue Lake is so gorgeous. And I videotaped a rainbow coming off the lake. And it just kind of felt momentous. Mm-hmm. And then we climbed down and I had my seizure almost immediately. And I just blacked out instead of kind of realizing what was happening. And when I came through, I was surrounded by the Ladies Ward Hiking Club and they put a silver warming blanket on me, which is appropriate. Yep. And I had an emotional support dog next to me. It was really, really wonderful and sweet. And so silver lining, I did not fall in the scree because I probably would have died.
Yeah, or at least been very injured.
Very injured. And it would have been hard to get me down. Yeah. And I wasn't driving. Right. If I was driving, I probably would have killed myself and someone else. Yeah. And so those are the two things that I'm very thankful for. And then I was carried down the mountain by the Rocky Mountain Rescue Group and followed them on Instagram. They're amazing. Oh, yeah? And they have the best Instagram.
Rocky Mountain Rescue Group? Mm-hmm. So when you had the seizure, you blacked out, you woke up. Did you think then, oh, this is what that is? Did you know? Or did you have an inkling? Or did you just say, oh, that can't possibly be that. I must be dehydrated or something?
No, I knew because I talked to my brother who was hiking with me and I was convulsing.
Okay.
As I wish, in hindsight, I was a better advocate for myself because it took me about 2 months to finally get the official diagnosis. And I see a silver lining there too, because the way I have Kaiser insurance and the way they work, they have like a neurosurgeon on, and they rotate each week. And so it's kind of the luck of the draw, even though I could have gotten a second opinion. But the neurosurgeon I just had an immediate warm feelings toward. I just felt very comfortable with him. And he gave me all the time in the world to kind of discuss the procedure, what he would do. And he was really funny afterwards, too. So.
Laughter is the best medicine after all, even better than chemo. Wow. Okay. So a couple months later, you got your diagnosis and then another surgery after that.
Yes. So I've had 3 craniotomies.
Good Lord. Do you want to tell people what that is?
Sorry.
I mean, I know what it is. And I think that's a lot. And I think it would be, people might want to know that.
Well, it's basically brain surgery. Yeah. And so they take off part of your skull, and you have a skin flap too. And then they just go into your brain and remove what tumor they can.
Right.
And so my neurosurgeon kind of after the fact, he's like, it looked like a cat.
What?
My tumor looked like a cat.
All right.
And
did he take a photo?
not of the tumor, but I
Okay.
have a photo of my bejeweled brain,
Wow.
which is pretty cool.
I bet it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And so you had the surgery. Anything after that?
Well, then I healed
Yep.
and went to Oaxaca for a week. And then
Nice.
I started radiation, which I believe it was 30 days straight with taking the weekends off.
Okay. That's a lot. I'm sure you already know that's a lot of radiation. It's a lot to do. I mean, just 30 days in a row of radiation is just, I mean.
Yeah. And it's a really interesting process because they have to kind of create a mask to put you in place and you can't move a millimeter.
Yeah. 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 They just have to strap your head to the board, right?
Correct.
All right. So, and where are you now? What's going on in your head?
Oh, in my head?
Yeah.
Well, I have chronic low white blood cell counts. I mean, and so typically the chemotherapy, it takes about a year. It took me 14 to 15 months and I just finished it. So, and the chemotherapy that I was on, it's a pill and it's really the only, from what I understand, the only chemotherapy that crosses the blood-brain barrier. Where I am now. Well, I'm glad to be through with chemotherapy, and I am going to mark the occasion with my mom and dad. I bought a sloth cake, and I'm picking it up on Wednesday, and we'll go down and celebrate and mark the occasion. Again, silver linings. I think cancer brought so many opportunities to me to slow down and reflect. Often it creates this opportunity for developing a spiritual practice, which I have. And one of the things that I appreciated when I woke up, I'm like, from my seizure, is if this is what death's like, I'm okay with it. But it wasn't. I didn't die. Yeah. And it was provided me an opportunity to do some what I call death administration, which I hadn't done. And I think even if people are healthy, clearly anything can happen at any moment, whether you're young or old. And I think dying is a complicated process, I learned. And if you die unexpectedly and your family has to kind of imagine what you would have wanted for your funeral, for any kind of financial, your bank account,
Right. Yeah.
and how you would want your money dispersed. And so I was able to come back, create a will and a trust, which is actually a trust allows one to avoid probate, which is the courts. Because if you die and you don't, even if you have a will, if you don't have a trust, your family has to go to court to get access to that money. And I just wanted to make sure that my husband is well taken care of, if I'm well taken care of, if my family needs to come in and make some decisions very quickly, and so avoid that process.
Yeah, we can talk a little bit more because we haven't really talked much on the podcast about advanced directives, and Sandra sent me a document that she'd kind of written out some of her thoughts, and a nice section on advanced directives. I would like to talk about that in a little bit, but
all of what you just said brought up a bunch of questions for me. First of all, sloth. Tell me about the sloth. I know they're cute.
They are adorable. And they also remind me to go slow and steady. And even I did have a Carrying Bridge page, and the picture that my mom wanted is me eating Palisade peaches wearing my sloth t-shirt, which is really cute. And I don't know, I gravitate toward them. My mom loves frogs. I love sloths.
That's funny. My wife calls me a turtle because I'm so slow at everything. So you finished chemotherapy now. What is there a plan for anything else? Are you watching and waiting? Are you scanning? What's happening?
So I get MRIs every 3 months right now, and each time I get scanxiety, it is really scary being in the MRI machine, and more so after the fact when I meet with my different oncologists, because radiation actually did a lot of damage to my brain. And it is hard to say what may be tumor and what may be damage from the radiation. And so I'm being monitored really closely, and they're just like, is it tumor? Is it radiation? Result of radiation? So,
and maybe you don't know the answer to this, but I guess what will happen next? I mean, if they see growth in the tumor, or is there a plan for what to do next, or is there anything to do next, or what do you know?
Well, this is where I think I need, I would like to do some work on myself, because I have not asked those clarifying questions of what is next, other than being monitored. I would like to learn more about the disease progression and my goals for care. I am very physically fit. I read a lot. I hate pain. And so, my goals for care would be to suffer less, to be able to break bread with people, to be able to hike and see the wildflowers. And if I'm not able to do that, I think I would really need to have a very serious conversation with my medical team about my goals for care. And I really don't understand the disease progression. I know it. I say I know. I mean, I'm not a doctor. From what I understand,
same. This is not medical advice, people.
Exactly. Yeah. From what I understand, astrocytomas are incurable. I have a low grade, but remember the tentacles I was talking about. Right. So they do tend to grow back. And I was told by my oncologist that 15 years was actually really great. And it would, if we could get another 15 years, that would be great. And I know medicine is advancing very quickly. The chemotherapy I was on in 2007, I think, had only been approved in 2002. So who knows what advances they would make but I honestly don't know, other than monitoring. And so I think I'm scared to ask that question about the disease progression. I think I need to. And I've also talked to my powers of attorneys about my wishes.
Yeah.
And I think that, again, that's part of my death admin is really making my wishes clear.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you need to know? I mean, you said you think you need to. I wasn't asking that question thinking that you need to. I asked the question because I wondered if it is important to you. Do you even want to know? I mean, maybe it's enough just to monitor and take what comes when it comes.
It's a good question.
Yeah.
Because in 2007, if I knew that it more than likely would come back, I think I would have lived my life in a different way. I'm quite happy. Although I wish I had done my death administration when I was 33 years old, I think. But it would have changed the way I approached life.
Interesting. Okay.
I think. I mean, who knows? I could be wrong. I still, like, after 2 brain tumors and a year and a half of chemotherapy, I still felt invincible for some reason. And that that it was not going to come back. The third time, after 15 years, I have a different perspective. And I think I would like to know now.
Yeah. What do you think it would change about the way you live?
I think it would be quite possible that I would easily go back to the way my lifestyle before.
Yeah. Okay. Before the 15 years, right?
The 15 years.
Yeah.
And I was all about my career, all about, so I was a director of an art museum, and the pace was bewildering. And I was answering emails all the time. I was in so many meetings. I felt all this anxiety and pressure to kind of lean into the next thing. And honestly, this time has given me this gift of slowness, and really being able to kind of reorder my priorities. I read this great book, Life is in the Transitions, and the author, Bruce Feiler, talked about in transitions, you kind of reorder your life. And he found this pattern of people that were, he called them the ABCs, and it's agency, belonging, and community. And agency is kind of like the achiever, want to get stuff done. And belonging is just really developing your community, or your community of people. And C is community and just serving people. And I definitely think the last 15 years, I was an achiever. I wanted to, and I was working long hours. And I'm kind of afraid of going back into that pattern. And I honestly don't know if I could do it, given everything that's happened.
Sure.
And so I don't know if I'm answering your question.
You
but
are.
It is now more, I want to nurture my friendships. I want to channel the sloth and be slow. And I want to be of service to others as well. And maybe knowing that I have 15 years before, if not, and that's the top end, would encourage me to be slow. And I like myself better now. And
I love that. I love that. There's a clarifying effect that mortality has when somebody has that in front of them. The things that aren't important, just kind of fall away, and you really become hyper aware of what is important. And I mean, that's the Stoics, Marcus Aurelius, all of those guys, the memento mori, remember, you can leave this life at any time. Pay attention.
Yeah.
Like, don't get caught up in the achieving and leave aside those, the belonging in the community, to use your terms. But, and that is part of the purpose of this podcast generally, is to say, hey, you don't have to be ill to learn lessons from people who are, and to live your life in a meaningful, purposeful way. And man, what so beautiful. I mean, and the thing is, you've been faced with your mortality, very clearly faced with your mortality, and given a little bit of reprieve, right? I mean, you've got some space now, maybe, hopefully.
Yeah.
And now you get to say, okay, well, what do I want to do with that? I mean, it's just, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's beautiful.
I'm down here wandering in the snow. I don't know which way I'm heading, but I'm just trying to get back home. It's been a while since I've been there, but
I'd like to talk a little bit. You mentioned spiritual practice, and I wonder if you would just talk a little bit about if you had any spiritual practice before all of this, and maybe how that was affected by the tumor, and then the time and the tumor and the like, all of the treatment, all of that. I would love to know more about. I mean, I've read what you wrote, but everybody else would love to know.
I think I'm not going to pretend that I have now, as I'm not a doctor. And
Noted.
Noted. I am becoming more interested in a mindfulness practice, and a lot of Buddhist precepts resonate with me. Just the emphasis on impermanence and not clinging to things. So I am a clinger. Sloths are a clinger too, but that's another story. Maybe that's the reason why sloths also resonate, or spirit animal, because I do have a tendency to cling to life, to cling to a profession, to cling to pleasant or unpleasant experiences, and to wanting my body to be healthy. And
You mean wishing that things aren't what they are now, clinging to what it was prior to,
clinging to or my fears of, like, I am scared to die. So I still cling to
life.
Cling to material things. I love my garden, but there's no guarantee that I will have my garden. And so it's I am working on that daily, to kind of let go and not cling to my life and what all the pleasant and wonderful things in my life, or even the things that I don't like. And I'm trying to be more present. And as I said, slow down, because I think people, as I said, when I got ill, I was just, and then I was taking like all these podcasts, listening to all these podcasts. And I love the 10% Happier podcast, which is about, it kind of has guided meditations.
Oh, he's great.
He is great. The narrative, though, is life is so fast paced. We are exhausted. We are not present. We're not present for people. We're always leaning in to the next experience. And I'm like, I don't want that for myself. And I don't want that for other people. It's like, why has our culture become this way? And I'm really questioning that because I don't think it has to be. And so I'm just really trying to work on calming myself. And I, in the MRI machine, last time there's this, meditation mantra by Thich Nhat Hanh, who's a Zen master. And I just love it. And it's breathing in, I calm my body, breathing out, I smile, dwelling in the present moment. I know this is a wonderful moment. And I was in an MRI machine.
Right.
And it just, why wouldn't it be a wonderful moment? And I'm still unpacking it because I just find it, profound, because as soon as you say this is a wonderful moment, it's gone.
Yeah.
It's gone. And so there's something there, and I haven't figured it out, but there's something there that I appreciate.
Where did this come from? Did you have this prior? Did you grow up with some kind of a...
I grew up Catholic.
Okay.
And I don't know, left the church, or I didn't continue after high school.
Sure.
But I don't know where it came from.
Yeah.
I think it aligns, like the mindfulness aligns with my values. I really don't know. It's something in me. It's intuitive.
Say the values that you're thinking of.
Well, generosity, integrity. I don't know if that is going to be like necessarily Buddhist or mindful, but loving kindness, just appreciating beauty, life for what it is. I'm still grappling with it and still trying to, it's a bodily feeling. I'm working things out. Sure. Talking to you.
Please.
I've always been embodied, and that is the way, kind of the somatic experience is the way that I've always feel at most at home in my body. And so, like, I have a strong yoga practice, just hiking. And that is when I feel home. And so I think that is where it comes from.
Yeah. Yeah. It's again, I think beautiful. As you were talking about letting, I don't remember now the words you were using, but not grasping, right? Or not clinging. Resisting and grasping are terms that I've used in retreats that I've done. Somebody said, I don't know, maybe it was me, but probably not. It was probably somebody else. But all suffering is caused by resisting or grasping, right? And either resisting what's happening now or grasping at what we wish was happening. And the idea that my friend Garrett has given to me, which I tell to everybody, is there are things worth holding on to, but holding lightly so that when they go, I'm not getting my hands ripped off, is kind of how I see it now, because there are beautiful moments and you don't want to miss them. You want to hold them when they're here, and then let them go when they go, because your beautiful moment in the MRI machine,
Yeah.
well, it was beautiful and then it was done, right?
Yeah.
And the idea of things will not always be how they are right now is helpful in all sorts of ways, right? Because when I find myself in a beautiful, lovely moment where everything feels right, knowing in the back of my mind that things will not always be this way, gives me a sense of gratitude for the moment and the ability to let it go when it's gone, when it's time for it to go. In the same way, when all the shit is hitting the fan and life feels terrible, I can know, okay, I'm doing this right now, but things will not always be the way they are.
I heard something that I really, it was well put, I think. And maybe that's why I explains a little bit more of the spiritual practice, the clinging and what causes suffering. Even if experience is pleasant or unpleasant, it's conditional. And how can we work on cultivating joy and contentment regardless of the condition?
Totally. Because why is sadness any worse than happiness? It's an emotion. They're both emotions, and they each have their place. And why does one have to be bad and one good? Can we just find contentment in the sadness as well as in the joy or in the happiness? I think that's, yeah. So has that helped with all of this? I mean,
it's a work in progress.
Yeah.
It has.
And has it fallen short sometimes, or have not the practice itself, but I mean, you said you still get anxiety. And I think that's also the point, is that you still have those quote negative emotions. And can you just allow those? Can you have those at the same and still be content, still find the contentment?
As I said, it's a work in progress.
Yeah.
I'm better at noting when I'm getting riled up or angry or sad or overwrought, and I can say, note, I'm getting mad.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I'm at a point where I can completely disrupt it, but at least I recognize it.
Well, that's the first step, right? Just being aware of what's happening, because so many of us, myself included, walk around unconscious most of the time, just reacting to everything that comes at us, and it's not often productive. Yeah.
Well, it helps. I mean, you said reacting, and one thing I've been working on is how to move reacting to responding, and just sort of not having a knee-jerk reaction and thinking about, well, how can I respond in this situation?
Yeah, totally. I talk about this a lot in my job and at work, about that, right? Being aware of what's happening and then moving from reaction to response. And the beautiful thing about it is it's available to us always, right? And so when you know your values of generosity and loving kindness, and then you recognize, oh, I am really angry right now, and I don't want to act out of my anger. What is the next thing that I can do that's generous, right? Yeah. And how do I be generous, either to myself or to somebody else or to the moment, whatever that is?
I think one thing that I've learned too is it useful? Like to just ask myself that question, because I could spin about my prognosis and a lot of things in my life, but I have no control over a lot of things. I've had 3 brain tumors, and that's a fact. Yeah. And so I can spin and, but that's not going to be helpful. Right. So how to disrupt the negative emotions and just sort of think about as I said, the silver linings of everything.
Your silver linings thing is, well, there's a couple things I want to say about it. One, there's a way in which people show up often. Most of the time it's not the patient. Most of the time it's family or friends who show up and want everything to be different, want everything to be fine, right? And so they show up with this kind of toxic positivity thing where they go, oh, well, everything's fine, or you just need to stay positive. And it is it's not real, it's not honest, and it's often not useful. And your silver linings, as I've read what you've written and as you're talking today, are not that, right? They are true and honest, finding joy, finding contentment in the moment that you're in, no matter what.
I actually had a bad experience in the Whole Foods parking lot the other day.
Yeah.
And there was a little bit of a damage to my car, their car. And I put in, because the car was parked, and I put a note on the windshield, and she called me, and she called and said she was going to file an insurance claim. And so I was on the phone with my insurance company for a long time, and they were so nice. So I'm just kind of like, I'm really enjoying these conversations. But I also, like, one thing that I just I found incredible is I didn't know what kind of a support network I had. And I've actually, my neighbors really showed up for me. And they drove me to my radiation appointments. They gave me free massages. And it was incredible. Now one of my neighbors I sit with in meditation almost daily. And my friends were usually the art community that I've been, as a museum director and curator, I've had for the last 20 years. And I've really broadened my friend network. And it's just, people are so interesting and so generous and so kind. Yeah. And just this opportunity to get to know my neighbors by first names and meditate with them or go on walks with them. And how many people can really say they know their neighbors?
Yeah, not many.
Not many.
Yeah. That is one of the silver linings that I see for a lot of people who are sick, is that they go, well, I'm sick, but I didn't realize all these people love me so much. It really is nice. And also a shame that I had to be sick to figure that out. But for anybody that's listening, it's true. People love you, and they will show up for you. And you have a bigger network of people that care than you think you do, which is great. I'm curious where your desire or practice of looking for silver linings came from. Is that just something that you've lived with, or is that something that's developed through the illness?
I think it developed through the illness. And I also think one of my values is positivity. I see the energy of being around people that are just so negative, and everything is a problem. And it just doesn't feel good. Again, somatic, like it does not feel good in my body. And silver linings and positivity feel good in my body.
Yeah. Yeah, of course they do. Of course. Yeah.
And they don't see it, but I'm holding my hand to my chest and breathing.
Yeah.
Here I sit at the edge of the ocean,
The wind's in my back and the whole world is open. So much I can make of this life before me. Oh, great waves develop in time. It starts with a ripple, rolls into tide. If I can just stick in my skin and settle my mind, I'll be.
You wrote in there that you're dying to say a few things, dying to tell us a few things.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I want to make sure to hit the things that you really want to talk about.
Well, I think the death administration is really important.
Yes, we should definitely talk more about that, and we should talk about advanced directives, and then a couple other things. So,
And I really I want to talk about Alua Arthur, and you need to get her on your podcast because she's amazing. She's like the superstar of death doulas.
okay.
And she's amazing.
Cool.
But I really liked the exercise that she recommended. And that's part of the death admin.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk a little bit more about death admin. So you talked about doing your trust and making sure that financially things are or will be as you hope for them to be afterward. What else do you want to say about death administration?
Well, again, when I came through from my seizure, this was an opportunity really to take care of things. And I didn't realize how complicated dying can be. And
all the logistics of dying.
Logistics of dying. And I think it is a gift to your family and your friends to take care of this while you can. And so you can do this when you're 20 years old.
Yeah.
And so what I've done is I now have advanced directives. There is this form, and then you might have to remind me of it. The MOST form.
The Colorado Medical Order for Scope of Treatment.
Yes, thank you. And we filled, my husband and I, my spouse and I filled that out. And it basically says, and it's a bright green form that you put on your refrigerator, and you have to fill it out with a doctor to make it legal. But it says if you want to be intubated or not, if you want CPR or not, if you want artificial food. And I made it clear that I do not want to be intubated. I do not want to have CPR. I've had enough things happen to my brain. And by the time the paramedics get here to my house, or I do have a bracelet too that says no CPR, my brain will have been deprived of oxygen for a long time. And I just don't want that for myself.
Sure.
And I've talked to, my brother is my power of attorney, a medical power of attorney. My sister is kind of the backup, and they know my wishes.
Yeah.
And giving them an opportunity to ask questions. Why do you feel that way? Because actually, and this is something I just learned, your medical power of attorney and your power of attorney can actually revoke your wishes if you're incapacitated.
Right.
It's important to actually talk to your family more broadly. So to minimize guilt.
Of course.
Or guilt, or like, did I do the right thing? So that they understand your wishes. And so nobody's questioning.
Right.
That is one thing I did. And I know not everyone is able to prepay for a funeral. But I think, again, that's a kindness to your family. Like, instead of them guessing, like, burial, cremation, what would she have wanted?
Yep.
And so we were able to pay for a green burial, water cremation. And I think Colorado is one of a handful of states that allows water cremation. And I think it's called terra terramation, which is body composting. So you're turned into soil.
Yeah.
And I think it really aligns with my values of minimum impact on the earth. And I also just really love the idea that the funeral home that we went to can give the remains to tree and flower farms.
Yeah.
So I love the idea. Now in life, it brings me solace. I know some people are like, I'm dead. Yeah. But it brings me solace and joy in this life that I'm going to be a tree.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
It is beautiful.
There are a lot of people who say, I'm dead. I don't really care. What does it matter to me? You guys do what you want. What I think is nice about this is I, at the hospital, end up working with a lot of people who whose family have said, I don't care, do what you want. There's grief that happens no matter how long somebody's been sick. At the moment of death, there's grief that happens, and adding one more decision for somebody to make is often really, really hard. Mm-hmm. And so even if you don't care, if you can just give somebody some idea about what would be okay with you, it doesn't even have to, you don't even have to feel strongly about it. It's really nice to take that's one last thing you can take off of their plate and make their job easier.
100%.
I think it's a really good point. I want to go back to the MOST form because we talk a lot in the hospital and medical circles about goals of care. Mm-hmm. And so many times goals of care get mixed up with treatment preferences. The MOST form has your treatment preferences. Mm-hmm. Your goals are what you were talking about earlier, which are, I want to be who I am. I want to be awake, alert, know who I am, be able to interact with my family. I want to be able to walk and smell the flowers and garden and do all of the things that you want to do. That's important to you. And that can change.
And break bread.
And break bread, right.
Break bread.
Break bread, sitting with people and sharing food. Mm-hmm. Also, I mean, that would be me for sure. Those are your goals. That has nothing to do. I mean, that leads to treatment preferences, right? And so if we thought that CPR and intubation and all that stuff was going to get you what you wanted, then we would do it. But you would do it. But you are recognizing now that the likelihood of coming through CPR unscathed and being able to do the things that you want to do after that is low. And so you're saying, I'm going to avoid that, right? Mm-hmm. So, and the point I'm trying to make is having the conversation. So telling people your treatment preferences is important. Mm-hmm. Telling your family, the people who are making the decisions and the people around the people making the decisions on your behalf, why your treatment preferences are what they are, relieves them of guilt or stress or bad feelings amongst family. Mm-hmm. It's really important. And I really appreciate that you're saying that and that you're doing it for your people.
And as you said, I think you were about to allude to this, that it's not set in stone. Yeah, so these are my goals. These are my treatment preferences. Yep. Now, right. In 3 years, 2 years, tomorrow, I can, after reevaluate and create another advanced directive and MOST form. So it's not, you're not committed.
No, you can change it at any time, but having that and continuing to have that conversation is really important. And your situation changes over time, and what is important to you changes over time. When I was younger, being able to run 5 miles was really important. It's not as important to me now. My knees hurt. So if I get into something where I'm not going to be able to run, well, okay, that's not a goal of mine anymore. And similarly, people get to the hospital a lot of times and they have said, I would never want to be intubated, to have a ventilator. And they talk to the doctor and the doctor says, well, you have pneumonia and you need a little extra time, a little extra support for a short time, and we can probably get you through this. And a lot of people who have said, I would never want that, change their mind in the setting of, you can either die right now, we'll keep you comfortable, you can die right now, or we can give you a little extra help and get you through this, and that's okay too. Changing your mind about those little things is okay, but your guiding goals are still the same, or can still be the same, and the treatment preferences and the individual situation can change too. Because you can't think through every eventuality or possibility of things that might happen. You might get into a car wreck and, need to be intubated for a short time, and maybe you would be okay with that. I don't know. But I think it's important to remember that you can change it as things change, and to remember that the outcome is what is the important thing to be paying attention to. The interventions themselves are not as important. They are, CPR is uncomfortable and it breaks ribs. Well, if CPR is uncomfortable and breaks ribs, but gets me back to a place that I want to live, well, cool. I'd take a couple broken ribs for another 15 years worth of life. That's really good. But CPR, where I walk away or don't ever walk away and have a brain injury for the rest of my life, that's probably not something I want. So the goals and the outcome is, I think, the important thing to pay attention to. And sharing all of that with your family is it's generous and really important, and helps them in the long run. Yeah. What else would you say about death administration?
Well, so I like, there's this death doula, Alua Arthur, and she has this prompt that I just love, or question, what must I do to be at peace with myself so I may live presently and die gracefully? And I like to keep that, I like to think about that every morning. One of her recommendations is actually imagining your moment of death. And and your ideal circumstances. And I know it's a thought experiment. Yeah. And I think it puts things in perspective of what you value. And I certainly want to be at home. I hope I can make it to a place where I am getting hospice care and I have a death doula to offer me spiritual comfort. Mm-hmm. And I want it to be during the May full moon, because I love full moons.
Oh, you're timing it in the year. Oh, that's hard.
I'm very specific. May full moon. And I want to kind of die when the sun is rising. Mm. And I know who I want it to be surrounded by. Mm-hmm. I want laughter. I want my sister by another mother to paint portraits of me, to paint portraits of everyone. I want my massage neighbor to give me foot massage. And I think that's, yeah. And I don't know if I said this, but I love wildflowers. And there's the moment in May that the penstemons and the wild irises are in bloom. And I want that moment. And it's just, it really makes me feel good to think about this. And then I even went further. It's just kind of like I'm planning my funeral. So I don't want, I just want a very quiet, small picnic. I have a DJ lined up and I know what I want her to play, especially the Carolina Chocolate Drops, Fly Away Pretty Bird, and the Traveling Wilburys, end of the line. But I also voluntold my sister to call who I want called and informed by my death, about my death. When
I read that, light bulb went off. I was like, oh my goodness, what a great, so say that again. So you told your sister.
Voluntold my sister and that I asked her if she would be willing to call people and tell them about my death, because
And you gave her a list of people to call, right?
and the numbers,
Yeah.
because my friend network here, my family doesn't know
Right.
my friends,
Right.
but it means a lot to me that these people are informed personally,
Right.
rather than via Facebook or something like that. So I gave her a list of the numbers as well.
Brilliant. Did you come up with that?
I think so.
You should.
I think so.
Copyright that or patent it or something. That's a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
So say the prompt again, Alua Arthur. Alua,
Alua, I believe. What must I do to be at peace with myself so I may live presently and die gracefully?
So what's your answer to that today?
Oh, today. Do the best I can on this podcast and be honest and vulnerable. And I will go out and garden. And one thing that I again, it's from my mindfulness practice is often I listen to podcasts, and I'm doing that less often now because it's becoming more noise than, and I'm just in a different headspace. And I just love this, again, a noting practice of like, I'm in the garden and I am planting flowers and really focus on that. And so I am planting flowers, and I know I'm planting flowers and keeping me here in the present. So I will eat dinner with my husband and know I'm eating dinner with my husband and just be as present as I can.
I also listen to podcasts and books a lot. And as I'm listening to you talking, I'm realizing how much I use it to avoid whatever it is that I'm trying to avoid. I'm sure there's lots.
Or just take you away from what being
not
present
being
and
present.
and what you're doing. And probably what you're doing is really maybe enjoyable.
It's fine.
Yeah.
It doesn't have, I mean, for me, at least at this point in my life, it doesn't have to be anything. It can be unpleasant. It can be pleasant. I want to be paying attention to all of the things that I'm doing. And, but people should still listen to this podcast.
Yes.
Right.
I do. I still listen to a lot of podcasts, I do like to laugh. And so there are some that just make me laugh. So sometimes you just need to be listening to podcasts and know you're listening to podcasts.
You're listening to the podcast. That's right.
Flowers you brought my stomach in knots. You never seem to be scared. My heart's on pause whenever you're gone. But one day we'll go anywhere. Darling, I've never been there. We will try.
I think the one thing that I would like to say is, and this is something that I'm still wrestling with, or I don't like militaristic terms, and that's another thing. In my obit or in my death notice, I'm okay saying how I died.
Your battle.
Oh no! I hate no militaristic language, please.
Yeah.
So I'm not wrestling. I'm not battling.
Yeah.
But I'm contemplating right now. I mentioned the rainbow that I saw on Little Blue Lake, and I probably am assigning it more meaning, but I like to think that this was a before and after, and my life abruptly changed. But I'm 47 years old, and there is kind of a conventional trajectory of life. So I'm kind of like, I was at the height of my career. This is going to make me cry. I've accomplished a lot. And height of my career, 47 years old. And I just, wow, it's out of sync right now. Or there are so many ways I could put it. And it just, but my life has been really disrupted and become something else. Mm-hmm. And I'm coming to terms with that. But it's hard. So I'm just, I'm hard. Not all,
yeah.
I'm not all silver lines. It's just, I'm just really kind of thinking, reflecting on a lot of young people get cancer. I actually just had a friend die of bowel cancer over the weekend.
Oh.
And she was my age. And so I'm just thinking about our kind of conventional trajectory mm-hmm. of life that we mm-hmm. kind of, we assign these particular milestones, and often they don't turn out that way.
Yeah. Yeah. I talk about it in terms of kind of narrative is kind of how I think about it. And we have this idea about, because it's an unfolding, your life unfolds, mm-hmm. but we do have an idea of where it's going. And we have this idea about, I'm going to work, because that's the story. You're going to work, and you're going to do your job, and you're going to get married, and you're going to, whatever, you're going to travel, you're going to save for retirement, you're mm-hmm. going to retire, you're going to do these things in retirement, you're going to mm-hmm. spend your old age in this. And, people's lives don't unfold that way. Mm-hmm. Most people's lives don't unfold exactly the way that they think they're going to unfold. This kind of illness early in life throws people off. Mm-hmm. And incorporating that news into the story is difficult. And that, but you're doing it. You're rewriting the story, or seeing how it unfolds. And I really do. I believe that your spiritual practice of not clinging is going to be really useful in that, because it's hard not to. It's hard not to cling to this idea that you're going to do whatever you were going to do. Mm-hmm. It's really hard. And so, like, the new information that you got to incorporate into the story, this is a big one. Mm-hmm. This is a big one.
Yeah, my friend called it, I'm in the bardo. Mm. And it's a Tibetan term for a kind of transitional space. Yeah. And it's a new chapter, mm-hmm. and it wasn't what I was expecting.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to figure out what would make a meaningful story right now. Mm. And it's unfolding, as you say.
Yeah.
So you're capturing me when I'm in the thick of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's my favorite place, the in-between place, kind of the watershed mm-hmm. moments. I think that's why I like working in the hospital so much, because mm-hmm. it is so in between. I'm mm-hmm. catching people at an acute moment, and we don't know where it's going. Mm-hmm. And it is nerve-wracking, and can be distressing in all sorts of ways, but given the right people and words and mm-hmm. all of that, it's an opportunity too. And you're seeing that, right? It is an opportunity. You are seeing it unfold, and you are actively finding ways to make meaning in what you're experiencing. And it's lovely. Yeah. Thank you for sharing all that.
Oh, thank you.
I've been sitting here just almost in tears almost the whole time. And I don't know exactly why, but I'm really touched by being here and being with you and hearing what you have to say. So thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Last couple questions and we'll let you out of here. It's been so long. There's this kind of legacy work is kind of what we call it in the death business, but legacy work. And one of the things that is suggested is doing kind of an ethical will. Have you heard of this?
I have.
Okay. Kind of something you leave behind for family and friends, just life lessons, values, things that you would want to pass on that you've gained in this life. And I wonder if there are some things that pop into your mind as you hear me talking about that kind of thing. Like what would you want to pass on to your friends, family, loved ones?
Oh, haven't we been talking about this the entire time?
Okay, sure.
Well, and I think
distill it down, maybe.
Oh gosh, I mean, I don't have children. I have a cat. That's really hard for me to think about. I did write this. I mean, you referenced it a couple of times in preparation, and I think I will leave it for people. And it's, I've really enjoyed, I've been talking to my mom. I've really enjoyed this process. I signed up for 30 days of prompts from this death doula, Alua Arthur, and she is giving me 30 days of prompts. And I've actually reached out to my mom and things like, what are your favorite smells? And what are your, and she got back to me and I'm just like, I never knew that about you. And that's really nice to know more. And so maybe positivity, curiosity, asking meaningful questions. And I honestly, I think how I've dealt with my illness, with, I hope, courage and equanimity and being willing to talk about it. I actually, now that I'm talking it through with you, just how I've approached my illness. And now I have this kind of like, I see my time as more finite than other people. And I think, I hope I can provide an example for people, for my family, for my friends, for people that are hearing this podcast, because I don't think we talk about death in this culture very much. And I know other cultures are much more comfortable.
Yeah.
And I if my legacy is being able to have these conversations more freely and honestly,
yeah,
that's it.
Yeah.
That's my legacy.
Yeah. Good. All right. Well, the last question is a little bit along those lines. So the last question we ask everybody is, how do you want to be remembered?
Again, this is really difficult for me because it kind of comes back to this clinging versus non-clinging and impermanent. It's so I'm kind of like, I realize like, do you really remember like Genghis Khan? How often do you think about him? Like,
well, more now, thanks.
And it's just like, I'm kind of cool with just sort of dissolving. My style, I was just sort of thinking about it. I am about kind of transitions and ending things. I am an abrupt ender. Like if I've made a decision to like quit something or not do something, I like it done abruptly. And so I'm just kind of like, when I die, I hope it, I don't know. I want to be remembered as an honest person, a positive person, a genuine person that thinks deeply about things, and is always searching and reflecting and trying to improve myself and continuously learning, and not taking anything for granted, and recognizing that all life situations provide an opportunity to grow.
Yeah. And it also sounded like what you were getting at is you're okay if people don't remember you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That too.
Which I think is a great answer. I don't care if I'm remembered or not. You will be, though.
Yeah. Thank you. But
whether you like it or not.
That was my first response.
Which I really like. I really like that. I think that's great. Okay. I think we did it.
Okay.
Did we do it?
Yes.
Thank you so much. So lovely.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know why. It's just I feel just very comfortable and welcomed, and I love the conversation. So thank you.
Thank you.
I love Sandra's answer to that last question. As a person who struggles with the need to be liked, I appreciate the perspective of a person who can say, it doesn't really matter if I'm remembered. I hope that eventually I'll come to a place where I can simply live life fully, intentionally, in the present moment, for the sake of the moment, not clinging to a need to be remembered or liked. Thank you, Sandra, for sharing your perspective and your silver linings with us. May we all acknowledge the things in our lives that are unpleasant, but also have the wherewithal to find the silver linings. They are there if we look for them. If you enjoy the Dying to Tell You podcast and believe in our mission to demystify death and dying and to help people live more thoughtful and intentional lives, you can join us in that mission by helping to spread the word. There are a few ways to do that. You can leave us a good review on whatever platform you listen to this podcast on. You can follow us on social media, all of which can be found on our website, dttypodcast.com. Perhaps most importantly, word of mouth is one of the most powerful ways of spreading the message. Tell 2 or 3 people that you love about this podcast. And thank you for considering joining us on this mission. As always, if you or a loved one is living with a life-limiting illness and would be willing to share your story, please contact us on our website, dttypodcast.com, and click the Share Your Story link. Thank you for listening. This is Dying to Tell You.